uh, they are needed a lot. You don't know who is behind an attack. You never know if a web application is being attacked. That's the reason why we need to constantly monitor the website traffic, or the what you can call it, an active website monitoring, so that no malicious user is accessing the data that a certain company or a certain organization is producing. So, why should we learn about penetration testing, and what is penetration testing in general? I'll just give you a quick overview and what I think penetration testing is. If you guys know about military drills or military exercises which are conducted all around the world, let's say a military exercise or a joint exercise between India and US, why do they do that? It's basically a simulated website. It's basically a simulated exercise, which is done between two countries so that they can test their military technologies and they can test their arsenals. Similarly, penetration testing is a simulated attack which is done on an organization's system. And the system can be anything. It can be a server, it can be a website, it can be a web application. And through that simulated attack, we get to know about all the vulnerabilities that are present in it. So penetration testing is just about that. I'll just share my screen quickly for that same situation. Yeah. So is my screen visible right now?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Yeah, so penetration testing is just about that. You create a simulated attack on a web application and you get to know about its vulnerabilities through that attack. Now, why and how should we do this? How should we do this penetration testing, and why is it really required? Um, well, before talking about that, uh, I'll guys, I'll ask you something. Um, which do you think is like the most popular operating system in the entire world, or which do you think is the most popular operating system used across the world? Well, yeah, someone said it right after, right the first time. Yep, Linux, Android, Windows, Windows, Windows. That's correct. Linux. That's correct. Yep, yep. So you guys are you guys are on the right path. Apple. Okay. So yeah, these are actually one of the popular operating systems that you can find really all around the world. However, you will be surprised that Linux, like it's the mother of nearly all the operating systems. Windows, Android, and not just that. Let's say you're watching Netflix, we are having Teams, we are talking on Teams. Their servers are also built on Linux. Now, why are we talking about Linux, and why is the entire world, like 97% of the entire world's web technologies and web-based applications are run on Linux? Why is that? First, it's free, like it's an open source operating system. Second, um, you can literally do anything with a Linux server because it's open source. Now you can clone the code repository or the code of the Linux operating system, and then you can really manage it, and you can create your own versions of it, and you can launch it on the World Wide Web. That's really how flexible Linux is. That's why even Android, Windows, and let's say like majorly all the leading websites of the world have some sort of Linux based applications on it. So that's why Linux is really special. So like even in my high school, when I got my introduction to cybersecurity, I was a Windows kid. I really didn't know anything about Apple iOS and Android and Windows were the only things which I knew about. However, when I got an introduction to Linux-based operating system, I was really flabbergasted that how flexible it was. You can write your own PowerShells. You don't need to ask for permissions every single time, which is the case in Apple, and that's why you can really do anything on it. So, talking about why we cybersecurity experts, or why someone who is working in cybersecurity needs to learn about Linux, is because of its importance. Now, majorly, majorly, most of the cybersecurity tools and most of the web servers which you will be testing, or web applications which you will be testing, will be built on Linux. So that's why it is important that you guys should learn some kind of version of Linux. So talking about why and what, like we just explained why you should learn Linux, but let's talk about what kind of Linux you should learn and why this particular version of Linux, this particular mod of Linux is really important. So what you can, okay, I'll just share my screen. I didn't realize that. What you can see in front of me is something called as Kali Linux. Now, what is Kali Linux? Kali Linux is nothing, but it's Kali Linux is nothing, but it's something like a mod or a updated version, or let's say how developers build a mod of Android. It's something similar to that. It's a type of Linux operating system. Now, why do cybersecurity experts, or people who work in cybersecurity or have been introduced to a field of cybersecurity, need to use Kali Linux? Now, is Kali Linux is managed by this big organization called as Offensive Security, and these guys are like one of the top organizations, like I think after Red Hat, who really maintain and who really take out a lot of stuff related to cybersecurity. Now, they are also one of the guys who built most of the tools, and how you can use those tools, and they provide out documentation for those tools, um, documentation for the tools that you will need in terms of penetration testing and to get into the field of cybersecurity. So what you can see here is really the operating system, Kali Linux, and it runs on and I believe this is running on a legacy monitor. So I want to ask you guys: do you know how to run Kali Linux, or have you been introduced to any form of Kali Linux, or have you heard about it? Just yes or no? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Even I would say, like, when I was getting myself introduced to cybersecurity, um, I I had never heard of something called as Kali Linux. I had never heard of something called as Linux. I just heard that a Linux operating system existed, but I didn't know why it was used for and why it was so special. So yeah, yeah. So I'll be talking about that just right now. So like you just heard about it, heard from me. Kali Linux is really one of the big. Kali Linux is a big deal. Why? Because it really has all those penetration testing tools already installed in the operating system. As I'll share my screen right now again. As you can see here, these are some of the tools which you can find in a Kali Linux operating system. Now, let's say you want to install Teams and you want to install the Outlook application on your computer. Uh, People can do two things. They can install Teams and Outlook separately, and one can just install the Office 365, which has nearly every Microsoft tool that Microsoft has developed. Similarly, Kali Linux has this suite of tools which leads you to do nearly anything. It has tools for information gathering, it has tools for vulnerable analysis, it has tools for phishing attacks, it has tools for forensics and stuff. And you can really play around with Kali Linux a lot, and just so that you can understand all these tools. Now, what are some of the methods that you can install Kali Linux, or if you have never installed Kali Linux, I would suggest you can really do two things. First, um, you can, and the best way to run Kali Linux in a in any computer is to have a virtual machine. If you have heard of a virtual machine is basically a virtual computer inside your computer. So it takes up some of your RAM and it takes up some of your storage, but it acts as if you're running a computer inside your computer. So what you can do is you can you can install the image package of Kali Linux from the offensive security website. I'll show you where you can do that. So this is the offensive security website, and here, as you can see, it has all these open source tools, and Kali Linux is one of those tools. So talking about the first step of how you can install Kali Linux, you can install any virtual machine on your computer. A virtual machine can be VirtualBox, VMware, and depending on your operating system, let's say if you have a Mac OS, if you have a Windows, then you can really just download virtual machine that favors you the best. I would suggest downloading VMware, but that's really your choice. So after I have gone to this, if you talking about like how you can download uh, uh, a Kali Linux image to your virtual machine, all you have to do is go to the offensive security website. Then you come to this webpage, where this webpage of Kali Linux, and you can go to you can go to download. After that, you will see all these um, different ways you can download it, and we'll not talk about all of them, but we'll be talking about the second method that is this live boot. But first, let's talk about how you can install it in a virtual machine. So now they have made this web page a lot more interactive, and just selecting how you want your computer to be, how your virtual machine is, you can just download the image from here. And then if you do like a quick YouTube search of how you can install Kali Linux on your virtual machine, you will find your answer to that. It's really not that difficult, and and you can get started with Kali Linux from there. The second method is dual boot, and I don't know if we can do that on a Mac OS. However, I have done it, and this is what I used to do when I was using Kali Linux back in my high school. So I would download something like this, like a live boot software version of the Kali Linux, and depending on my laptop's configurability, I'll just download that image. I will load that to a CD drive or a USB, and then I will run it. Again, if you do a quick YouTube search of how you can install Kali Linux, you will be good to go. So um, I'll just Just a second. I just got a. Um, yes, yes. As Keetana said, VirtualBox is Mac OS allows Windows dual boot, but yeah, VirtualBox is the best bet for the Mac users. Now we are done with. Now let's say you are done with installing your Kali Linux operating systems into into your computers. What do we do next? So, um, what do we do next? So here comes the methodologies and concepts, if you call it concepts of penetration testing. Now, what if you remember what I really said about penetration testing? It is a simulated cybersecurity attack on any web application that really allows you to understand the vulnerabilities of a system and how a software responds to a malicious attack. However, if we want to do a penetration test, then there are certain rules. If I would not say there are certain rules, there are certain ways we can plan our penetration test. So first comes up the planning and reconnaissance. So I'll just explain what five of these mean and how you can really do and how Kali Linux can make your life a lot easier when you're doing a penetration testing attack. When you're doing a penetration test, sorry. Yeah. So yeah. So talking about planning and reconnaissance. Um, what do you think if you got a task from any big organization and they're saying, okay, here's our website, you need to do a pen test on it and give us a report by the end of this month, or let's say by the end of the third week. So they that like after they have given you that task, you start your planning and reconnaissance just after that. Imagine if no one that doesn't happen, but if it's someone who doesn't have a lot more knowledge about what technologies were used to build the database or what technologies were used to build the server or the web application, they can't really provide you they can't really provide you a lot of information. So it also comes under your shoulders, the task comes under your shoulders to really start uh, planning all your tasks, to plan what things you can do, to plan what tools you need to be using. So let's say you are talking about a web application and they give you the task to find the vulnerabilities in a web application. So how can you start your planning and reconnaissance? So if you can see my screen, this is a web application that is known as Whois. Now, what is Whois and why you should learn about Whois, and how is this even minutely related to planning and reconnaissance? I'll give you a small uh, overview of how it goes. Uh, let's say I wrote dal.ca. Someone gave me someone from Dal gave me the task to find all the vulnerabilities on the website of Dalhousie University. Then what should I do in my planning and reconnaissance so that my task ahead will be easier? What I'll do is I'll first check uh, what server, what ports, and what are all the supported and the secondary domains related to it, and what are all the secondary links related to it. So Whois is basically one of those domain tools where you can find some of the generic informations, and where you can find some of the informations that is not usually given by, let's say, that is not usually given by the task assigner. But yeah. So let's check what Whois gave us about dal.ca. So it gave us the registrant, which is Dalhousie University, what country it is, India, how old it is, and who is the tech contact. And if you can see how many, I think it used to give us what ports there are and what ports are active. Well, yeah. Well, there's one important thing. How many links are attached to it? Now, if you see this, if you can understand what that means, it basically means how many links are present on the dal.ca web domain. Yeah. How many how many links how many links are basically present on the dal.ca web domain, and how is this really important? Well, when a security configuration is actually when a security configuration takes place, it is automatically assumed that all, like, the entire website is secured. Well, that is not true. Most of the websites, most of the when in a website, most of the web pages are secured. However, if there is one certain web page that has some kind of vulnerability, well, that can be exploited. So if we know how many total links are present in a web page, then we can really do our research on finding out those particular links and what those links outbound us to do. We can run our penetration tests, we can run our attacks, our simulated attacks on those links, and find the vulnerability and find out about the vulnerability. So um, so this was one introduction on how you can use whois.com. It is one of the domain tools that you can use for to start your pen testing planning and reconnaissance. Talking about um, what what else do you need in order to just a sec. Yes, yes. Yes, you guys should try it on the university, your university's website as well. You might be surprised on what things you get and what you might not get. So here's another thing. Let's say you want to learn or you want to see what technologies are really used on your web page or your website, and why do you really need to learn that? So through Whois, you got the basic information of what the domain is, how many links, how many inbound and outbound links are. You just got some sort of an summary, some sort of an overview to it. Now, to do a in-depth analysis, you can use another website called as Web Analyzer, and it basically gives you a list of technologies, a list of the tech stack that has been used on the website. Let's say I'll save dal.ca again. I'll do the technology lookup. Okay, now it's asking me to do a sign up. Um, I'll try to open it on the web page. I don't know if it'll work or not. Okay, it's really asking me to sign in. Okay. So what this basic what you guys can do is go on to this web page, and you can put in the link or put in the domain name of any website, of any website, let's say your university's website, and it will really give you the overview of what technologies have been used on your website. So why is that important? Again, let's say you got the access to the website or the web page. Now you want to run some kind of scripts or some kind of shell commands to get an access to the server. Well, in order to do that, you you really need you really need to have some kind of idea of what technologies and what frameworks are used on that web page. So this is one of the great tools, or one of the great web pages that you can really use to understand what tech stack has been used on the website. Well, lastly, I'll talk about Nmap. Now, um, what is Nmap? Um, Nmap is basically what you call is like a network map. It's basically Kali Linux, uh, Kali Linux legacy application. Um, Now, if you now before talking about Nmap, I want to say this. Kali Linux is a form of Linux operating system, like as the name suggests. Now, if you guys do not know, or if you guys have not, if you guys don't know how Linux operating system works, um, it's basically all terminal based, or how you run your Git bash on a terminal. It's just like that. You won't find any GUI link with it. However, I think some softwares like Metasploit, or some softwares like a Wireshark, they have a GUI link with it. However, if you install Kali Linux, don't get overwhelmed. It's a Linux operating system, and most of its softwares are terminal based. So Nmap has like two versions of it in Kali Linux. There's a GUI based, and then there's also a terminal based application. What I would suggest, like you as a student right now, you can do is just go on YouTube, or go on any website you can think of, and I'll also give you the examples of few of those websites, and you can search about how you can run the terminal version of Nmap. Now, how is that any different to the GUI version? It's not really different, but terminal working on terminal helps you getting familiarized with it a lot. So yeah, we got a bit diverted from our topic, but what is Nmap? So as you Nmap is basically something that you can use to scan a network. You can use to scan your Wi-Fi. You can use it to scan a website, a web application, and it gives you the details of nearly every single thing that is running on a web page or a web application. Let's say you run Nmap on a Wi-Fi. Let's say you run Nmap on a open source Wi-Fi. You can really see you can really see the IP addresses, and then I don't know if you can see the MAC address. I don't think you can see the MAC address. However, you can see the IP addresses of majority of all the softwares sorry, not all softwares, of all the devices that are running on that particular network. Similarly, in case of web application, when you run Nmap, when you run a website on a web map, or on a Nmap, it gives you all these subdomains, or all these ports these subdomains are running on. Now, how is that important? I'll talk about it in the next session here, in the next phase. So, so we talked about planning. Oh, wait, we talked a bit about scanning as well. So, how we can do scanning and why is scanning important? Now, scanning is really, really important because, well, in the planning phase, you really planned how you really got the information. You got an overview of what the application looked like. Now you also got an overview of what all softwares, like what all tech stack has been used on the web application or on the website. Now, what what do I need to search for? Well, you need to search for vulnerabilities. You need to search for open ports, and that's what we're going to discuss in scanning. So, uh, I think in majority of my cases, I have used really two tools to do my scanning on any web application, if I have to talk about. So one of them was Nmap, as I discussed, is it gives you all these attached subdomains which are linked to a website or a web application, and it gives you all these ports that are linked, that those subdomains are linked with. And also, Nmap gives you I think, a list of open ports that you can really use to your advantage. Now, how can you use Nmap and where is it available? Again, Kali Linux. You can install you can install Nmap in your Windows application. You can also, well, if you see the chat right now, Keithna um, sent overview that she got from web analyzer. So you can see the tech stack that has been used on the University of Winchester's website. So yeah, as I was talking about, you can install Nmap. Nmap is just like any web application. You can install the Windows version, you can install the Mac version, but I don't think they will give you the same amount of flexibility as it has been provided with the legacy Kali Linux or any of the Linux based OS. So once you install Kali Linux, you will get Nmap, and I think there is something called as Zenmap, which is also available under vulnerability analysis. So yeah, you can use them once you install Kali Linux. It'll be in there. Now, talking about what other softwares you guys can use. Well, here is another one, Acunetix. So Acunetix is basically a very well, when I was working as a cybersecurity intern at when I was in my high school, this was the primary application which we used throughout our scanning phase. And if you are trying to get a demo, or if you are trying to get yourself started with the scanning phase of or scanning phase of the penetration testing, what I would suggest is uh, getting Acunetix, getting the Acunetix software. Well, it is really well, you can't really get it if you don't have a company website. However, there was some sort of a like we found out a backtrack to how you can find Acunetix. All you have to do is go to rediff.com. This is similar to Gmail. This is similar to how you have what do you say? How you have your university's mail. You can create an account at rediff.com, and when they ask to enter your company email, you can enter that email, and you will get a free Acunetix demo version for, let's say, I think 14 days or 30 days. Now, why I'm focusing a lot on Acunetix? Well, you guys are not really familiar with all the cybersecurity topics, or the what do you call it? All the methodologies. What Acunetix does is it provides a list of nearly all the vulnerabilities. It provides a list of all the open ports, what all attacks can be done on a web page depending on the available vulnerabilities, and it really gives you an overall report of how a vulnerability looks like. So, and trust me when I say this, this is a very, very powerful tool. And I think nearly all companies in India, I know of, nearly all companies in India use Acunetix to do some sort of scanning to get initial report of how a web application's vulnerability looks like. So if I would suggest, like, if you're a beginner in cybersecurity, then download Acunetix. You really will get a great overview of how vulnerabilities in a web page can look like. Sounds good. So yeah, so that covered the scanning phase of penetration testing. So, what can we take away from this small introduction? Well, scanning is basically what you do in order to get some kind of vulnerability. It's in the scanning phase where you find out about these vulnerabilities, and you plan your next attack, like your simulated attack, based on the vulnerabilities you find after the scanning phase. So, for the I spoke about scanning and finding about vulnerabilities. Now, how can you, how can you as a beginner look for vulnerabilities, and what are these vulnerabilities or issues that I'm talking about repeatedly? Well, vulnerabilities are nothing but security vulnerabilities are nothing but security issues that a malicious user can can manipulate in order to gain access or collect data from that web page. Now, vulnerabilities can be found in many ways. However, uh, as a beginner, you guys should be familiar with nearly, or I would say at least 10 vulnerabilities that are most common throughout web pages or throughout the World Wide Web. Now, how can you keep yourself updated with these 10 vulnerabilities that I'm going to talk about? Well, you don't have to learn them by heart. It's just that you need to make yourself familiarized with them. Now, how can I do that? So there is this community which is called as OWASP. Um, there's this community called as OWASP, and um, and they are like the open source community for hackers, or you can say security professionals. It's sort of like Stack Overflow. They write articles, they create posts, and they give out advices, and I guess in some cases they also give out training certificates to to security professionals who are beginners all the way up to like the advanced and experienced levels. So what they do every single year is they make a list of top 10 vulnerabilities that are found all over the world. Like I would say it has been going on since like this has been uh, what I look for when I'm done with scanning. Uh, I look for if a vulnerability which I found after scanning was one of the top 10 vulnerabilities that are listed in WASP. If it is, then that's what I use in my next phase. So let's just have a look on what these vulnerabilities look like. Well, here they are. Here they are. Broken access control, and these are for 2021. Like these are some of the most common these are some of the top 10 like most severe vulnerabilities that can be found on a website. And if they are there, then it is problematic. A hacker or a malicious user can take control of a web page by exploiting these vulnerabilities. Now I can't really like explain every single one of them. However, what you can do is you can just copy broken access control, cryptographic failures, injections, and you can paste them on YouTube. You can paste them on Google, and you will get a very better example than what I could explain right now. So, so if you can see here, this was the position of all the vulnerabilities that were found in 2016, and this is the updated version in 2021, and they keep on updating it every single year. So I'll copy this link and I'll paste it on the Teams chat so you guys can have a proper look at it. Okay. So so far, I've have. Do you guys have any questions? No. Okay. I'm audible right now, right?
Yeah, we can hear it.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So yeah. So that was the part where I explained about scanning and how you can plan your test. You can like from the initial part how you can plan and do your reconnaissance, how you can do scanning, and after you have after you're done with your scanning phase, what vulnerabilities should you guys be looking at in order to plan your attacks. So talking about the next phase, which is gaining access. Now all these three steps, you will be surprised if I if I tell you nearly all of these three steps can be done using a single framework. In Kali Linux, I don't think just in Kali Linux, this special software is available in nearly all operating systems. You can have it in Windows, you can have it in Mac, and this is really the most powerful powerful framework that you can find that any security professional can have in order to carry out these three steps. So what is that software? It's called Metasploit. Now, what is Metasploit and why you guys as a beginner should be concentrating a lot on Metasploit and let's say not on other softwares? Well, uh, let's talk about how you can gain access and how you can really use Metasploit in that. Well, I'll just have a bit of water. Okay. So how you can really use Metasploit to gain access, and what you as a beginner should be doing right now. Well, if you guys are familiar with React JS, if you guys are familiar with any web applications or any frameworks that have been ever used, let's say I'll talk about Node.js right now. Node.js is nothing but a framework that allows you to build backend servers, or not just backend servers. Node.js is basically a framework that allows you to run JavaScript on the backend, or the server side of a web application. Similarly, Metasploit is basically a framework that allows you to gain access and maintain access to an entire system, or entire what you can say, uh, a vulnerable system. So how is Metasploit used? Well, well, as a beginner, as I said, Kali Linux is part of the Linux operating system, and it and most of its applications are run on terminals. Well, Metasploit is one of them. I'll quickly show you what Metasploit looks like. Well, well, this is really how Metasploit looks like. It's completely run on a terminal, and uh, and uh, and it's a really big and popular framework that is used for penetration testing. And what you can do as a beginner right now is go to YouTube, for example, and you can learn about some of the starting codes and some of the starting commands that are used by Metasploit, or that are used on Metasploit. Well, why can't I really speak about Metasploit at this point? Because Metasploit is so big. It has you can it's basically a terminal of its own. You can if you can, I could have shown you a video. However, it'll just take up more time. You can really search about Metasploit on YouTube. You can search Metasploit on Google, and you will find tons of articles by Whois itself, and they will give you a great overview of how Metasploit can be used. Well, talking about this current phase when you are planning your attacks, how you can gain access to a computer. Well, gaining access to a computer is not really difficult. The major part is scanning. uh, After you have done your scans, after you have done your planning and reconnaissance, uh, the vulnerabilities which I showed you, which were um, which were injections, broken access control, insecure design. You can do simulated attacks. How can you do simulated attacks? Well, you can do it through Metasploit. You can write small scripts, and you can do simulated attacks through injections. You can do simulated attacks through cross-site scripting. So basically, these hacking terms which you have heard about SQL injections, uh, broken authentication. These are these simulated attacks of what you do in order to gain access. Um, well, why? Well, if you say, yeah, it's a bad thing, we are breaking the system. Well, that's what you're doing right now. As a pen tester, you will be trying to gain access to a system anyhow. You have to use all the techniques. You have to find out all the vulnerabilities, and if a vulnerability is evident, then you have to use that specific attack, or that you have to exploit that specific vulnerability to your use. And you have to check if that vulnerability exists if I attack on the website. So uh, does gaining access mean gaining access of the server? Just that? Or gaining access of the device? Just that? No. Gaining access means you can gain access, you can download their data, you can shut down the website, you can let's say you can intercept traffic. So gaining access can really take different forms. If you want to talk about that, it's not just gaining the access of any kind of system. So that was gaining access. The fourth part was maintaining access. Now, uh, how is maintaining access, and how is maintaining access any important, and why should we as penetration testers be concerned about maintaining access? Well, that's what majority of the hackers or majority of the malicious users do. They try to gain access to a website, and what they try to do is install a backdoor. Well, what is a backdoor? Backdoor is basically some sort of a entry point, it some sort of a port, if you want to call it, and they open it 24/7. Let's say after they have gained access, they have lost their connections, they can return back to the website through this certain backdoor. That's how they maintain access. Uh, Maintaining access can again be of different forms. You can install a Trojan software uh, onto the server, and what Trojan softwares do is the website will think the Trojan is kind of like a software and it should be there, and the server will not delete it, or the server will think like, yes, this software should exist and it should be there. However, inside the Trojan, there is a certain malicious script, and that can be really, really dangerous because Trojans can create a backdoor. You can access the server remotely, and it will automatically run scripts. So, as I said, just like gaining access, maintaining access also comes in different forms. Uh, Allowing a backdoor is, uh, or making a backdoor is one of those forms. Installing a Trojan and remotely accessing a server is another form. If you again search about maintaining access, you will see a lot more examples than what I'm giving you right now. um, Last but not least, we'll talk about analysis. Now, what is analysis? And in penetration testing world, there is something called as uh, penetration testing and vulnerability assessment analysis. um, Penetration testing and vulnerability assessment analysis is really important because it gives you an overview of what you really went through. It's sort of like a revision of the entire process that you went through before your final exams. So it's just like that. Well, every cybersecurity expert creates a penetration testing and vulnerability assessment because because it gives them an overview of the attacks which they did, of the planning which they did, and what vulnerability and what uh, what issues were used in order to gain and maintain access to the server or the system. Uh, well, that is one of the reasons. Second, it gives you an overview. The second reason, it basically gives an overview to someone who is not familiar with the cybersecurity terms, if you want to call it. um, um, you can give it to your manager, you can give it to the task manager who gave you the task, or the company owner who gave you the task of doing a penetration testing on their website. And that's really how penetration testing and uh, vulnerability assessment report is all about. It gives you an overview of all the things you did in order to gain and maintain access uh, to a website or a system. Well, yeah, um, I guess that was my quick overview about penetration testing and vulnerability assessment and cybersecurity. Well, if you guys have any questions, you can ask me right now. However, I'll just share what steps I took uh, in order to get myself familiarized with cybersecurity, and what I am doing right now. Um, well, uh, I was just a kid. I was, I think, 16, probably 15, when I was back in high school, and a seminar was going on. A seminar just like this was going on, and there was a cybersecurity expert. He was basically an instructor from Delhi Institute of Ethical Hacking. It's a story back in India, and he was conducting a seminar which was really about all those nitty gritty stuffs about why security is important and why we should all learn about it. It was very basic, but then he started throwing terms which were kind of complex, which were related to, like, okay, why Metasploit was used, or how Nmap works, what is honeypots, and what is XSS. Well, I was familiar, or a bit familiar, with those terms, and that's when I caught his attention. He asked me if I could do a training as his institute. Like, just after the seminar, he asked me to do that, and after my training, he offered me a position as a teaching assistant in his institute. Well, that's that's what you guys really got to do, is just getting yourself out there. Keithana, as I know, she is one of the uh, really great mentors as I could find anywhere. If I would say University of Windsor, like Women in Cybersecurity, like the Women in Cybersecurity chapter of University of Windsor is doing something, you guys are on the right path. Just learn about, if you want to get yourself familiarized with penetration testing, get yourself familiarized with penetration testing, learn about all those 5 phases and what tools are really used, learn about Kali Linux, and just don't install it and leave it there. Install it and run it. Well, I couldn't show it with me right now because I already have a virtual machine because of my co-op, and Windows is running on it. However, you can install Kali Linux, and don't be afraid to play around with it. Kali Linux is really powerful. However, if you're using it properly, you can learn a lot. There are so many tutorials, so many resources online that you really don't need to take any paid course or any paid classes in order to be good at be good in cybersecurity. So yeah, if you guys have any other questions or any minor questions that that I just explained, or Keith and I, if you think I covered everything, just ask me about it. Um, I'm here.
Thanks, Benji. This was an informative session. It was really good. I liked it so much. You covered all the five phases, but I think next time we should do like a practical session, like
Oh yeah.
testing. And before like I move on, I want to show you a report because from the pen testing competition I did and what we did, it's like a quick like 2-minute report. I'll show it to you guys. But before we move on, penetration testing, it's a growing field. Get into it, learn, and also we did a lot of session using university websites. It was for fun, but you cannot like pen test the university
Yeah.
website. It's,
Yes.
you cannot gain access. You cannot like maintain access. It's legal. It's just for fun. But do penetration testing like on a simulated environment, and there's a lot of YouTube channels. I'll share all the resources. We'll be like having a penetration testing learning series going on, so look out for our social media sites. We'll be posting a lot of events, links, and resources online, so get into it. But thank you so much, Rajesh. It was really informative, and I know you got your vaccine and you're kind of sick, but you pulled it through, so thank you so much. And I'll share my screen and I'll share the report to you guys now. Let me know if you guys can see my screen. Can you see my screen, Rajesh?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
I can see it.
so yeah, I believe it was last November. I led a team of 5, like to participate in the legit penetration testing competition based off University of New Haven, like in the U.S. So what we had to do is like we were assigned a company. It was a simulated company. It was a power and water company, and we were assigned the task to pen test like their entire company, their servers, their water pipelines, their web applications. So we were given like so we did all the pen testing. It was a 2-day pen testing competition. It was really fun. I learned a lot. My team members learned a lot. It was a great team effort from University of Windsor School of Computer Science. It was really good, and we did the pen testing and we wrote like a 20-page report. So the beauty of pen testing is the report. You need to be able to communicate what you find in a report. So English and literature does happen in computer science. I'm just gonna let you know. I know there's a lot of freshers like uh, first year undergraduate students here, so I'm just letting you know like literature is also important in computer science. So this is what we did. Like we attacked the simulated environment, and we did find like a lot of foundings. So this is what the report is like. You need to like write the purpose of content, your executive summary of what was the company about and what you did and what you found. And in penetration testing, you need to rate all your vulnerabilities you find based on like high, low, or medium. And I believe like in your later years, you have to take this one class called Computer Networks, COM 3670, where you learn about servers, IP addresses, and everything. So when Brijesh was talking about scanning, so you scan for like when you scan an IP address with the subnet like 24, you can find all the devices, all the servers, or all the PLC devices. Since it's like a water company, you can find all the devices and IP addresses connected to it when you scan like the subnet using Nmap. And we used like Visual Studio. I believe it was Visual Code or something. Like we used the Visual Studio to come up with this diagram based on the IP addresses we found using Nmap. And these are all the processes that Brijesh talked about: reconnaissance, discovery, exploitation, social engineering, um, reporting, remediation. And then yeah, pretty much like there was like a lot of devices connected to one subnet because it was a huge simulated network, and we found all the it's a really fun field. Like it's really good. You'll learn a lot, and the tools we used, it's all based off Kali Linux. If you have Kali Linux installed, you can pretty much do anything. And there's a lot of freelancing and pen testing too that you can do. It's on your like side time. It's really fun. So yeah, this is how a penetration testing report looks like. And Rajesh pretty much covered like all the concepts and everything. And I think we should have like a practical session later in the semester. And let me know if you're up to it, Rajesh.
Yeah, as you said, it sounds the report which you showed us. It was really informative. And as I said, like the analysis and the reporting part is probably like the most important part, because you really learn about what things you did. And yeah, as you said, uh, practical sessions should be a great resource for you guys to learn and getting yourself familiar with all the concepts and like the practical version of it. Like, let's say you don't like I when I was in high school, it took me, I think, around a week to correctly install like the proper version of Kali Linux on my desktop. I know it's kind of scary. It's kind of like when you're installing it as a dual boot system, or if you're installing it as a virtual machine, in a virtual machine, it looked kind of scary. However, just install it by looking at different tutorials. And uh, Keithna and I think Keithna's opinions and Keithna's resources are really helpful for you guys. I wished I had something like that in my first year, or my when I was getting started with pen testing. And um, and yeah, if you guys want to learn more about it, uh, go out to YouTube, or else go to Udemy. Take a very beginner course if you want to like get yourself familiarized. I know they are paid, but I would say they are worth it. Or if Keithna gives you a list of the things you can do, let's say the things you need to learn, well, in a course they are just piled down to one single pattern. However, if you're and that is very easy to learn and easy to follow through. However, if let's say Keithna or Women in Cybersecurity chapter of Uvinsa gives you a list of the things which you need to learn, well, you can search about them individually, and you can learn them individually. It will take a lot of time, like not a lot of time, but it will take more time than you could take and than doing a course. However, uh, through that process of trial and error and just failing and then trying again, you will learn a lot of stuff. Trust me.
Thank you so much, Brijesh. Like, if you have any questions, you can ask Brijesh or me, and we'll for sure help you out. And connect with us on LinkedIn, and we can share resources like anytime.
Yes, that's true. Connect with us on LinkedIn. Um,
Um, so yes, of course, DG, we will come up with a list of resources and everything, and I will share it with you guys. We'll email it to you guys. Are you from Uvincer? Yes, I'll share it with you guys. Any other questions? Um, yeah, Darren, like I need to take a few pages out of it because it's confidential, but I'll share it with you in email. Does that sound good?
Well, you guys can really search about penetration testing and vulnerability assessment reports. And let's say if even if you install Acunetix, like the software which I told you, you can get like a very basic report of scanning, and you can get sort of an overview what report like it's similar, or it's not that much, but you can get an overview of what a report might look like. So uh, so yeah, if you again, if you want to look at a very complex report, you can search about it on online too. I think OWASP has like the website which I showed you. OWASP has a good set, and like it has an archive of many such softwares, like what softwares and reports, and what on what date this attack, or what date this test was conducted on a web page. and this is the report, and they have a report linked with it. So yeah, you can look up vulnerability assessment reports online as well. However, again, guys, like I showed you dal.ca, Ketan, I showed you university CA website. Don't use it on the university's website. It's like you won't be, you will face in trouble because that's really not ethical. And again, in any website, like it's not just the university's website, in any website uh, that is up and running, um, uh, I don't think it's really that ethical for you guys to run any kind of tests on it. Like you can do some sort of scanning. You can look up its information on Whois. However, I guess Keithana can provide you a set of web pages or set of examples that you can work with, and you can run your tests on them. However, just like penetration testing is really powerful, and it's a really comprehensive technique, and I wouldn't recommend it doing on a live up and running web page. uh, and that's just a closing note on my part. However, uh, don't be scared don't be scared when you come across a problem. Just explain, or try to explain what happened. If you ever run a test on a server and you face an issue or you get a notice, don't worry about it. Just explain what happened. You are a student and you are learning, and people will support you. So yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, I believe that's it. But thank you so much, Brijesh, and thank you so much everyone for attending. I'll share all the resources, including the report, like tonight, I guess. And thank you so much, and have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend, guys. Thank you, Keithna, for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Brijesh. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Yeah, you can, if you want to connect on LinkedIn, I can share my LinkedIn. Just a second. And that's my LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me over there, we can have a chat. I'm in my co-op, so if you want to talk about co-op as well, we can. Anyways,